I'd like to say that I embraced this, but I didn't. I questioned it first too. And just like he said, when the hospital, he said, Dad, you know, I almost died. When he first started talking, he didn't say, hey, I'm into heaven, I saw Jesus. It scared me because I didn't know if my son was going to make it. And so I wasn't ready. It wasn't until later that we started talking, and then he could see where I saw you in the hospital, what I was doing while he was in surgery, and those things, I realized, wow, okay, you can't make this up. He had to be telling the truth.
And then, Sonia, you heard something that made you think, oh my gosh, this experience must have been legitimate. What happened?
He announced to us that he had 2 sisters, and he did not know I had miscarried. Sorry, it's real tough to talk about, but I miscarried on Father's Day weekend, and he did not know that we had. How do you tell a 3-year-old or even anybody that you lost a baby? And when he said he had 2 sisters and he actually saw her, and at that point we didn't even know if it was a he or she, and just to know that I have a daughter waiting for me in heaven, it just solidified that he went.
And you all never discussed this in front of Colton at all?
No, not at that age. I mean, how do you explain to 3-year-olds without scaring them? Babies die in their mommy's tummies. It's just not natural to have that. Maybe when they get older you talk about it, but not when he was that young.
I mean, we weren't even telling our friends until a little bit later. I mean, it's a silent, quiet hurt that it's hard to share. And so, how do you break it to a little one in terms they can understand?
Meanwhile, Colton, you also say that you actually encountered Satan during your experience. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I never encountered him. I just saw an image of him. And people
What was that like? What did he look like?
Well, I saw him in 2 forms. One, a 7-headed dragon with 10 crowns, or pretty much just a huge archangel, but he didn't have a halo over his head. He lost that a long time ago.
And when you heard that, did you think, well, you know, I'm a pastor, I'm a very religious person, I talk about things all the time, I discuss good and evil with my family, that this is something that Colton might have been hearing and listening to, and as a result had some kind of frame of reference?
Well, in my children's program in church, we don't get into revelations and all the imagery. And I remember him asking me, Dad, why do I remember 7 heads and 10 crowns? That doesn't make sense. And if you look into Revelations, John describes a dragon with 7 heads and 10 crowns. And I'm like, okay, I know he didn't read that. He couldn't even read at the time. And so, to me, it was just more confirmation that what he saw, he was not inventing.
Meanwhile, 7 million books have been sold. Do you ever, and you have a book of devotionals that is coming out as well, you did a children's book. Do you ever worry about sort of the commercial aspect of this? If this is such a profound experience for your son, and such a spiritual experience, that somehow profiting from it is unseemly?
Well, I think a lot of people, that's their first maybe thought, but we have so many people that ask us, we need to know more. This is helping us. Is there more to the story? And when you talk to adults, how do you talk to children? How many children need to know about heaven? And I think only a child can really communicate to children. We have so many more requests. You know, our first habit is to go back to life and let us just do life like we did. And for us, we're responding to all the requests. We need to know more, and that's what we're doing.
And Todd, I know that after Colton told you the story, you all would look at images of Jesus to see if this is in fact the person he saw. And you used to show him a variety of images, and then one day, I understand you showed him this painting. And what did he say to you?
You know, he just looked at me. First of all, he didn't say anything. I said, Colton, what's wrong about it? He goes, Dad, that's right. And he's such a particular, exacting kid. That is the only image that he's ever said that's right.
Well, up next, we're going to meet the amazing young artist who painted this. Her story is equally incredible. We'll be right back. And welcome back. You know, we were just talking about this portrait of Jesus before the break. It's called Prince of Peace and featured in the book Heaven is for Real. You may be surprised to learn the age of the artist and her heavenly inspiration. For art prodigy Akiane Kramarik, heaven has always been in the details. Her paintings, complex, vibrant, and inspired by an astonishing spiritual connection. At just 4 years old, Akiane began to have visions of being in heaven and meeting God. She began translating those visions onto paper. Most extraordinary, the concept of God hadn't even been introduced to Akiane as a child. Her parents were self-described atheists. At 6, she turned to painting, bringing her heavenly visions to life through her art.
I get up at 4:30 every morning and I do art at 5. Then I do probably 2 to 3 hours.
Homeschooled and self-taught, she continues to paint 6 days a week, and today has produced more than 200 paintings, all influenced by the same faith and heavenly inspiration that she has carried from childhood.
When I paint, for example, the planted eyes, and some people say it's not religious, but I know inside it is everything I do that has meaning of spirituality.
Now, Akiane was just 10 years old in that video. She's now 18, and some of her paintings are worth more than $1 million. Akiane, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So you were just 4 years old when you believe you started hearing voices from heaven.
Yes, and I just came in through a family that was not religious at all. But when I started receiving these visions at 4, it was just way too complex to describe them through words, and the only thing I could use was colors.
You started painting and drawing. Yeah. And this is the Prince Piece, which I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And you were only, I cannot believe this, 8 years old when you painted this?
I was, but the image came to me ever since I was 3.5, 4 years old. But it was like a blurry, like an image. But it was only when I was 8 years old when this carpenter came knocking on our door when I said, this is the perfect time to paint the story of love, unity, and peace.
A carpenter, of course.
So
that when I heard that, I was like, wow, okay,
and
that makes sense.
And actually, some researchers actually analyzed my work, and they compared the Shroud of Turin with my work, this particular painting, and they said it was almost 80 to 90% accuracy.
But tell me about this next painting. You were how old when you painted this?
This is when I was 10. It's called Creation, and this actually happened by accident. It was a time where I just let myself go, and somehow this place came about, and I just remembered that this was the place I used to visit as a child.
And your dad's in the audience, your dad Mark, and hi Mark, what did you think? As Akiane said, you guys were not a religious family at all. When she started talking about this and painting these things, what was your reaction?
At first I didn't understand where this came from. We weren't, I was an agnostic, my wife's an atheist, and we didn't speak it in the house. But to this day, I still can't figure it out. But I was just shocked.
Have you changed? Are you now more religious as a result of Akiane's work?
Yeah, I'm more, yeah. There is life after death. Yeah.
Let's go to, sorry?
There is life after death.
Well, that's what a lot of people I know think, and are wondering a lot more, I think, after watching this show. Tell me about this final painting.
This is actually called I Am, and it was one of the most hardest painting that I've ever done. I think it's because based on the question of who are we, why are we here, and what's this place about?
This took 6.5 months to paint?
6.5 months, and I think it's because I just wanted to capture that moment of self-realization of who we are and why are we here. And that's when I wanted to capture this painting, because I know that everybody's so, in my opinion, everybody's perfect. Everybody is irreplaceable and unique. And I want people to get inspired by looking at this painting.
I know you have fewer visions now. Does that worry you?
It does a little bit, but I know that it will come naturally as I get older, because when I was younger, this voice told me just be prepared not to receive anymore. I know it's going to come sooner or later.
Well, your paintings are extraordinary, to say the least. Akiane, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming up next, Mary, Colton, and Akiane will answer some of your questions about heaven.